Welcome. In this session, I am going to continue discussing the population attributes, and thereafter we'll start discussing about population growth. Now, coming to these population attributes, in the last session, I told you that a population will have birth rates and death rates. And I also have given you some examples that how we can come to know the birth rate of a population and death rate of a population. And then we also have seen that the population will also have sex ratios, which means that how many female individuals are present in that population and how many male individuals are present in the population. So like 50-50%, okay, or 60% of males and 40% of females. And that's what in case of human population, the female ratio is coming down because of this female feticides taking place. So the female population is lesser when compared to the male population, okay, in case of India. Then we also have seen that a population will be having different age group individuals. Okay, there are pre-reproductive age group individuals, reproductive age group individuals, and post-reproductive age group individuals. And based on the distribution of these individuals in a population, we classify the populations as expanding, so means they are growing in course of time, and some populations have come to a stabilized condition where almost all the three age group individuals are present, okay, in same number almost, right? Then the declining population, in which you see more number of post reproductive age group individuals. In growing population, you will see more number of pre-reproductive age group individuals, whereas in case of the declining population, you will see more number of post-reproductive age group individuals. So this is what we have discussed in the last session. And now coming to, okay, the population attributes. So we'll continue discussing about these population attributes. So now, as I said, that the size of the population, okay, so the size of the population tells us the status in the habitat. So the size of the population tells more about, so its status in the habitat. So whether it is growing, declining, or in the whether it is in stabilized condition here. Next, okay, so the population size, so this can vary. So the population size of a particular species can vary. We can say that the population can be as low as, okay, less than 10 Siberian cranes. So less than 10 Siberian cranes in Bharatpur wetlands. So we can see that the population is having the individuals much lesser than 10 individuals. So here the Siberian cranes in that Bharatpur wetland are less in number, so less than 10 in number, and from that, okay, smaller number to a greater number also we can see to a, okay, millions, so more than millions, okay, of individuals in case of chlamydomonas, in case of chlamydomonas in a pond. So in this case, the chlamydomonas in a pond is having a, okay, a very good population size, so it has very great number. When coming to the Siberian cranes, it has very less number. And now when we take population size, we need to technically call it population density. So here the population size is technically called population density. It's called population density. It means that how many individuals of that particular species are present in that population. So that forms the population density. So population size is nothing but population density, and this is designated with letter capital N. So whenever we use in this ecological studies capital N, it indicates it is a population density. So the population size is technically called population density. Now, the appropriate measure of the population size is to calculate the total number. So here, the correct way to know the population size is to find out how many number of individuals are there in that population. Okay, so here the appropriate measure of population is to find out the total number of individuals in the population. Find out the total number of individuals in that population. So that is actually appropriate. But the point is that every time finding out the number of individuals in the population is quite difficult. Okay, say suppose how many fishes are there in a pond, means of course the whatever that fishes we see in case of pond will be of different species. Okay, and if you want to know the number of a particular species, so how you will be able to determine the population or population density of that, okay, species in that particular pond, river, okay, or in any other aquatic body. It's quite impossible to, okay, take fish by fish and then give it a number, and then it is not possible. Okay, so in some cases that the measuring or finding out the total individuals of that species is quite difficult, and in some cases, okay, it is meaningless, right? So what that some cases where we see the population density measuring in terms of number is meaningless, and in what are the cases where we find the population density is it cannot be considered, means in number. So let's see those examples. Say suppose in an area, say suppose in an area, so there are 200 carrot grass plants. So there are 200 carrot grass plants. So its scientific name is Parthenium hysterophorus is the scientific name. Okay, of course in the old textbooks they did not mention the complete scientific name of this carrot grass, but in the newer textbooks you will find the scientific name. So they have given the carrot grass Parthenium hysterophorus. There are 200 carrot grasses in that area, and there is one banyan tree. So there is one banyan tree. So whose scientific name is Ficus bengalensis. Ficus bengalensis. Okay. So of course that is a national tree of India. So there are 200 carrot grasses in an area, and with one banyan tree is present in the location. So now by considering the number, you cannot say that the carrot grasses have a very good ecological value in that location. No. So the point is that the benefits of having this banyan tree is much more when compared with the carrot grasses. How many number of the carrot grasses are present in that location, that doesn't match with the value of this banyan tree. So in this case, considering the number of individuals in the population, okay, will be meaningless. So now the point comes that then what or how we need to come to know that. So in what way we need to measure. So in this case we need to consider the percent covered. So we need to consider the percent covered, or we need to consider the biomass. Okay, so this 200 carrot grasses, the biomass of this 200 carrot grasses doesn't match at all with one banyan tree. So that even doesn't make 1 by 4th of that banyan tree in terms of biomass. Okay, so in such conditions, okay, we need to consider the percent covered or the biomass, right? So hence this is a meaningful, right, to measure population size in such conditions. So it's meaningful to measure population size by considering the percent cover or biomass, right? So this banyan tree has enormous role in the community. So in that case, by considering the number, we cannot say that carrot grass, okay, is having a great role when compared with the banyan. So that is not. Now in another case, say suppose, as I told you, that to find out the number of a particular fish species individuals, okay, to calculate them. So it is almost very difficult, or in fact time consuming. If you at all you want to do it also, it will be very much difficult and time consuming to know the number of individuals of that particular species in that particular pond. Now in that case, how to find out the population size of that particular fish species? Okay, so here the population density of a particular species of fish in a pond, right? So of course, as I told, that the number is the appropriate measure, means to find out how many total number the population is having. In this case, it is very difficult to know how many individuals of that particular species of fish are present in the pond. So in this case, we need not know about the absolute population density. So in this case, we need not know, okay, the absolute population density, means exact population density, how much it is, we need not know it. The relative population density is more than enough. Okay, so the relative population density, so approximate number of that population in that pond, to calculate it is more than enough, and it will serve the ecological purposes. Okay, so relative population density is more than enough. Instead of knowing exactly how many number of individuals of that particular species in the pond. Okay, so for this you need to just calculate the number of fish caught per trap. So number of fish caught per trap. Okay, so by finding out the number of fishes, that particular fishes that came along with that trap, you can calculate the number of, or the population density in that pond. Okay, so in this case, the relative population density, calculating the relative population density is more than enough, and it will serve the purpose when compared with the absolute population density, where you need to find out the exact number of that particular individual fish species in that pond. Now in another cases, we will calculate the population size indirectly. So like for example, want to know the tiger census. So to find out how many tigers are present in particular area. So to find out that number of tiger individuals living in a particular area. So that's a tiger census. To know that tiger census in national parks. So in national parks. So what we are going to do in that case, we will be finding out the pug marks and fecal pellets. Okay, so we will find out pug marks and fecal pellets to find out the total number of tigers located in the national parks and also uh, reserves, tiger reserves in tiger reserves. So in those locations, so pug marks are the footprints. So these pug marks are nothing but the footprints. Okay, and also by finding out their fecal pellet, so that is undigested food, okay, that is eliminated through the digestive canal, of course, from the digestive canal. So this fecal pellets, finding out that fecal pellets and also the pug marks, right, and fecal pellets released from the its digestive system, so we can find out how many tigers are living in that particular area. Right, so that's all about the population attributes. So we have seen that always measuring the exact number of the population is not required. So there are some other methods to know the population density, and they serve equally well with that equal to the total number you like to find out. Then next one we will see about population growth. We'll see about population growth. So here the size of a population of any species is not static. So size of a population of any species is not static, which means the population size it increases, decreases depending on a lot of factors. Okay, they may have diseases and some of them may die, reducing the population, or the environmental factors are so adverse that they're not able to withstand that climatic conditions, like droughts, they come floods. There are so many external and internal factors that can control the population. Okay, and that the size of the population of any species in the natural environmental conditions, they are not, static means constant, so they will be changing, so it will be dynamic. And what I say is that the population, the size of a population of any species will change in time. So changes in time, so it is not constant or static. Okay, so I told you that the size of the population, or I simply say the population density, the population density depends on various factors, depends on various factors. The population density depends on various factors, okay, that include food availability. So if there is more food availability, then the population size may go on increasing, and if the food availability is limited, then the population will not be able to grow. And then the predation, if the predation increases, the population density will come down, right? And then the adverse weathers, adverse weather conditions. So like this I have many other factors. So food availability, predation, adverse weather conditions, all of them, even the diseases they get, they are going to control the population density. Okay, and these factors will help us to understand whether the population is growing or declining, right? And again, the density of the population in a given habitat, okay, during a given period of time, it fluctuates. So let's look at how it's going to get fluctuated. Okay, so the density of population in a given habitat, density of a population in a given habitat. So this density of a population, so I'm going to take it as capital N, the density of population in a given habitat, okay, during a right. So here I'll write again, the density of a population in a given habitat, okay, and in a given period of time. So it fluctuates due to the following factors. So it is going to fluctuate due to the following factors, especially those are four basic processes, or I say due to the following four basic processes. And what that four basic processes? So these four basic processes, they include, okay, so that is natality. So it's natality, so which indicates the births. So these are births. And second one, okay, the mortality. So this indicates the deaths. And then third one, immigration. And the fourth one, emigration. Immigration and emigration, right? So for this natality, I'm going to take this one as B, the mortality as D, because the natality means how many births are taking place in the population and how many deaths are taking place in the population. So if the births and deaths equal, okay, almost we can say that that population, so irrespective of this immigration and emigration, so keeping aside, you can say that population is in a stable condition, so its population size is not declining or increasing. So later I'll discuss, even we can include this immigration and emigration. So this I'll take it as I, and this emigration I'm going to take it as E. Now let's look at the population density, so that is N. How this population density is going to fluctuate based on these four basic processes. Now the births, so that is natality, okay, so births, this I'll take with just B later, are going to add new individuals to the population. So always the births will increase the population density, whereas the mortality, so this I'll take it as D, is going to decrease the population density. So here plus indicates it is increasing the population density, minus indicates it decreasing the population density. And then the immigration means individuals from another place moving into this population in another habitat. Say suppose people coming from US to India, okay, or from China to India, or from other locations to India. So this what we call it immigration. So when these people from different locations come to India, then the population density of India is increasing. So that's why this will be also a plus. So immigration will be the one factor that increases the population density. Then emigration means the people from India, say suppose they are moving out of the country. So hence when the people from this place they move out of the country, then the population density of India will be decreasing. So in this case, the emigration, which is E, I'll take it as negative. So that is minus. Okay. Now the natalities and immigrations, both of them are going to increase the population density, whereas the mortality and immigration will decrease the population density. Okay, so of course, if how many births are taking place, okay, is similar to the deaths, and if immigration, how many people are coming in and how many are moving out, or how many individuals of that particular species is moving into that population and how many are moving out. So if they are balancing, then the density of the population remains constant. So if the natality becomes less and the mortality increases and immigration increases and this immigration decreases, then the population density comes down, so it decreases. Okay, so if this natality and immigration decrease and mortality and immigration increase, then the population decreases. Okay, so it all depends. So that is what the density of the population depends on these four basic processes that definitely operate in case of a population. So there will be always the number of births taking place, the species in that individuals in that species will be dying, and some of them may be moving out, and some from another location they move in. It all takes place in nature, right? So here the natality is number of births during a given period, and in this case of mortality, number of deaths. So number of deaths during a given period, of time. Okay, and coming to this immigration, so the immigration indicates the number of individuals of the same species. You need to consider the same species, the number of individuals of same species, okay, moving, okay, into this population from elsewhere, so okay, in a period of time, so that the individuals of a particular species, you will need to consider the same species. I told you already, population means you cannot include different individuals belonging to different species together. You cannot call it population. So whenever you use the word population, it indicates individuals of a particular species only. Say suppose this you consider a human population in a particular habitat, okay, and humans from other location, they are moving into this population right from elsewhere, so moving from other countries into India. That is what here I'm talking about, only the human population in this case. So if you are considering, okay, donkeys from another location moving into this location, or some other frogs moving from another habitat into, okay, this habitat, okay, but they should be of same species, then that condition we call it immigration. And immigration is the number of individuals of same species that left the habitat. So that left this habitat and moved to elsewhere. Okay, and moved elsewhere. So they have gone to some other location. So in that case, right, their population density will increase, and here this population density will be decreased. Okay, so during a time period, being a time period is what we need to consider it as immigration. So the population density at time t, so if n is the population density at time t, then the density at time t plus 1 we can calculate with a small formula. Okay, if n is population density at a time t, if n is the population density at a time t, then the density at a time t plus 1, or okay, so density at time, that is t plus 1, so at time t plus 1, so that we can calculate with a small formula, so that n t plus 1, okay, after a particular period of time, so what will be the population density? So if n is its initial density, population density, so then we need to take, okay, so nt plus, we need to calculate the births and immigrations, because these are the one who are going to add the individuals to that population. So minus the deaths and immigration. So then that will give you the density of the population at a time t plus 1, right? And under normal conditions, okay, so these births and deaths, so these two factors are very important, that influence the population density. So important factors that influence, okay, n, so that is population density. Okay, now of course in certain conditions, say suppose if a new area is being formed, a new habitat is being colonized, okay, so the species, a particular species is moving from one location to another location, in that case the immigration plays a very important role. So if a new habitat is being colonized, in that conditions, in that case, okay, so this immigration is very important, okay, factor. So this immigration is important factor, okay, so that contributes to population density, so that contributes to population density, right? So I hope we understood this, the population. So how the population, what factors are being influencing the population density. So those births, deaths and immigration, and immigrations will contribute how and what the number of the population density, whether it is going to increase, decrease, okay, it all depends on such factors. So now let's look at the growth models. So the next one we'll discuss about the growth models. So we'll see about population, okay, growth. Under that we will see about the growth models, right? So here can we come to know that the predictable pattern of a population, so the growth of the population, whether it is growing uncontrollably, can we predict? Okay, what are the factors that can make a population to grow uncontrollably? So this is we need to predict that whether the population can go into huge numbers and what will be the consequences of that huge population. So if there is a very high population, so what are the factors that it can create the trouble? Now it's very important to know because the human population is growing like anything. So by studying the other species population, so whether they are growing uncontrollably, if they grow uncontrollably, so what are the factors that are responsible to grow it, and what will be the consequences of that uncontrollable growth? So if we are able to find out such things, so we can come to know what will happen if our human population grows into huge numbers. So already we are facing a lot of problems having huge populations in the country. So let's see about these growth models. Now, based on this, how the population grows in a given habitat, we will come across two types of growths. One called exponential growth. So where you will see the population growing uncontrollably, and okay, so with all the factors supporting it, it goes on increasing in the population size. So that is exponential growth. And another one is logistic growth. So in this logistic growth, okay, the population comes to a stable, okay, comes to at one or other point, comes to a stable point, and where you will see the number of birds almost similar to the number of deaths, and so that is the logistic growth. Whereas exponential growth, where we see the population will be continuously growing on with the several factors supporting it. So first we will look at this exponential growth, so how it takes place. Okay, so here when we see that the food availability, if the food and space are available, so this food is the very important factor that actually helps in increasing the population density. So if the food and space are available, then definitely there can be an increase in the population. So this increases population size. So the density of the population increases if the food and space are available. Okay, and in this case, if the resources are unlimited, then the species will be taking or the what I say, or realize the full potential to grow in number. So that's what the Darwin has told. Okay, so every species has its potential to grow in huge numbers. Okay, say suppose that's what say a fish say produces 3000 eggs, and all these 3000 eggs are able to grow into adults, and each of it again produces 3000. So say within a short period of time there won't be any space on this planet earth. So that much within a short period of time they can grow into huge numbers. Okay, that's what in the chapter evolution where Darwin said. So he observed the potential of these organisms when food and other resources are available unlimitedly, so they are going to grow into huge numbers. Okay, so that's, I say, if food and space are available, then the population grows exponentially. Grows exponentially, or okay, it grows in a geometric fashion, or in geometric fashion, which means the 1 becoming 2, 2 becoming, okay, the geometric fashion will be 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and goes on. You can see every time the number getting double. So it's a geometric fashion, or the exponential growth, what we say here. Okay, so in a population, say suppose, okay, the birth rates, we need to take birth rates. I told you, whenever we consider a population, so when we say the birth rates that are represented with B, and the death rates that are represented with D, then the increase or decrease in the population density, then increase or decrease in the population density. So we know that the population density will be represented with the letter N. So if in a population, when we see the birth rates with B and death rates D, then increase or decrease in the population density N, okay, in a unit time period, in a unit time period. So this in a unit time period, it will be given, that is T dn by dt. So that's, I'll just mention T dn by dt. So this we can calculate. So that dn by dt, so that is a unit period of time, so where the birth rates minus death rates into that population density will give us whether the population is increasing or decreasing. So the increase or decrease in the population density, that is the rate of change, right? Dn by dt, we need to take that birth rates and death rates, okay, multiplying with the population density, okay, at that time period. So if we take these birth rates and death rates as R, so if we are going to take that B minus D as R, then it simply becomes dn by dt is equal to Rn. So dn by dt will become Rn. So in this case, the R, which means is the intrinsic rate of, it is intrinsic rate of natural increase. So it is intrinsic rate of natural increase. So already, so we try to calculate what is the R values for some populations. We try to already, or we calculated already the R values from some of the populations. So let's look at those R values, okay, for some of the populations here. So the R values. The R values for Norway rat, the R values for Norway rat, so that they have come to know it is around 0.015, 0.015. And for floor beetle, the R value is 0.12, and okay, for the human population, will also, they have also calculated this R value for human population. In case of this human population, that human population in 1981, so when they calculated this 1981, it was found to be around 0.0, okay, 0.0205 is the R value, okay. And this R value is a very important parameter, okay, It's a very important parameter that is used for assessing impacts of biotic and abiotic factors on the population growth. So it's I say R is very important factor for assessing the impact of abiotic and biotic factors on a population growth Okay, so the R value, so whatever that R is very important for assessing the impact of abiotic and biotic factors on the population growth. Okay, so this is about the growth model, especially like how we find out the natural increase or the intrinsic rate of natural increase, the R values, okay, of these individuals or different species. So here I have given 3 examples: Norway rat, floor beetle, and in case of human population. And this is the equation for exponential or geometrical. So it's an equation to calculate this exponential or geometrical pattern or geometrical growth pattern of a population. Right. So here we will see a graph in this case. So the exponential growth we'll see, and in this case I'm going to take the time t on x-axis, and on y-axis I'm going to take the population density, that is n. So as the time passes, you can see in this case the population will be growing on. So it will be growing on. So you will get a J-shaped growth curve. So in the exponential or geometrical growth pattern or geometrical growth pattern, so you are going to get a J-shaped growth curve. You are going to get a J-shaped growth curve. Okay, and that's where the dn by dt will be the Rn, is the thing what we need to see. Okay, I'll end with this. We will see that in the next session we are going to add calculus to this and see what will be the formula we are going to get in case of this exponential or geometric growth. And I'll also discuss about the logistic growth in the next session, and we'll also see the life history variations in the next session.